Hi everyone, welcome to Rosie's Dessert Spot. Today we are going to be creating these delicious cinnamon rolls and we're going to be baking them off in a cast iron pan in the Polito Giotto wood fire oven. To start off, you're going to need your milk, your butter, and your yeast. I like to also add a little bit of sugar in here to help feed the yeast. So that is just from the main recipe, nothing extra. Then add in the dried yeast, give it a mix, let it sit for about 10 minutes, and then in a mixing bowl fitted with a hook attachment for your dough, we're going to add all the ingredients together. So the flour was already in there, we just added the extra sugar and salt, and if you want to, you could also add a little bit of vanilla in here as well. Let your mixer run on low to medium speed for about 10 minutes or until you have a dough that looks like this and it comes away from the sides very easily. I'm going to divide this dough in half, add one into a metal bowl that's been oiled down. I'm going to oil my dough ball as well, cover it with plastic cling film or just food wrap to make sure it doesn't dry out, and into the other half, with the help of some flour so that the color doesn't stick to my benchtop, I'm going to knead in gel food color in purple. This was the Americolor, I believe, or the Chef Master. I'll have that linked down below which one it was. But from what I can see that is definitely the Chef Master. I'm going to pop them into my turned off oven to proof, so just until they're about doubled in size or so. And in the meantime, we can make that delicious cinnamon enriched buttery spread that goes in between the dough. I'm going to use flour as non-stick, press it out with my fingers a little, and then use a rolling pin to get it out to about 3 or so millimeters in thickness. I'm going to try to keep this as rectangular as I can, and then I'll do the same for my second color. If you wanted to, you could color this a different color with gel food color. I've just kept it the dough natural color. Apply a thin film of this and then overlay on top your secondary color. By the way, you don't actually have to do this. You could just do one solid ball with one color and then one layer of this cinnamon. However, I think it's a lot more tasty when you have 2 layers, and the fact that you've colored the second layer, it's gonna look so much cooler. Once you have another film of butter and cinnamon applied, go ahead and roll this up nice and tight. And then I've used a serrated knife or knife teeth, and the key to getting a nice cut is sawing back and forth, and you're not adding a lot of pressure. I found that at the start I was adding heaps of pressure and it was really flattening it out. But if you have teeth on your knife, it should glide through pretty easily. I left them about 2.5 to 3 centimeters thick. And you also don't need to apply the baking paper if you don't want to, but I did just for ease of removing it later. I'm going to make them as tight in there as I can, pop it into my oven to then prove for an hour or so. You don't need to add any hot water, but if you do, it does speed up the process. So I'm going to add some boiling water into a bowl, close that off, and allow it to prove for an hour. In the meantime, you can start your fire in your Polito Giotto. I'm going to start in the middle, move it to the side. Once it gets up to about 400 degrees, I am going to let that fire come out, kind of die off naturally, and then close the door once I have embers or just a tiny flame. As that begins to cool down to that magic 280 degrees or 250 between there, that's when I'll stick in my rolls. I'm going to apply just a little bit of that cinnamon butter over the top for a nice crusty or kind of crunchy texture at the top. I have some embers left to the side just to help maintain a nice even temperature in there so it doesn't die off too quickly. And then leave it for about half an hour, give it a turn, leave it in for another 20 minutes to half an hour or until you have this nice browned top. After which your cinnamon rolls are ready. Allow them to cool down just for about 10 minutes and then you can take it out of your cast iron pan. It's worth noting I left my oven on for an hour to heat up to that 400 degrees, and then that's when I turned off the flame. If you leave your oven going for a lot longer, obviously it's going to cool down a lot slower, and so you'll need to put it in at about 220 degrees instead. But just play around, have some fun with it. And if you want to do it in your conventional oven, just pop them in at 180 degrees Celsius with a fan on and you're sweet. Here I've melted down some cream and a white chocolate to make a ganache, adding in white gel food color and then my purple just to create this nice lavender color. I'm going to drizzle it over the top of my delicious cinnamon rolls. And then for decoration, we're adding some dried lavender, after which you can cut it like a cake. But honestly, I think cinnamon rolls are best served pulled apart. This is what it looks like as a cross section, so you can see those two colors. Give it a bit of a drizzle, serve warm, or if you like, you could just pull it apart and enjoy it as is. You can get creative with what you spread over the top as well. You can make like a nice cacao-based spread instead of the cinnamon. Maybe even top it with cream cheese frosting. And that's it. I hope you guys enjoyed this recipe tutorial. I'll leave a link in the description box if you'd like to check out the Polito Giotto wood fire oven. Thank you so much for tuning in, and we'll catch you guys again in the next tutorial.